NBA
We're ready to roll.
free agency. Let's talk about it. NBA free agency obviously is very fluid. LeBron James is the topic. Extremely methodical in his approach to free agency since opting out 2 weeks ago. The plan was family vacation, while his agent took a few meetings. And now our Brian Windhorst and Mark Stein are reporting James is seriously considering the Cavs. They become a frontrunner, replacing Miami. While again today, LeBron will meet face-to-face with Pat Riley. So let's discuss his options. We talked to our expert, our insider. Skip, if we give it to Stephen A. Smith. What do you think?
First of all, LeBron's options are enormous. He can do what he wants to do. Okay. He's the man. There's no question about it. He's been listening. His agent, Rich Paul, has been listening. Brian Windhorst has accurately reported, along with Chris Broussard, both doing outstanding jobs. They both accurately reported how, essentially, LeBron is going to leave things to Rich Paul. Rich Paul has talked to Dallas. He's talked to L.A. He's talked to Phoenix. He's talked to Cleveland. He's talked to, you got Houston that wants to be on the radar, the list goes on. And essentially, it's LeBron James' pick of the litter, because no matter who anybody else wants, if LeBron says, I want you, they'll throw everybody aside to get their hands on LeBron James. So let's understand that. Now, as we look at this particular situation, one of the things that I think that has been a misnomer, Skip, is that everybody has been pointing to how LeBron James and Carmelo Anthony have been holding up the process, because LeBron is #1, Carmelo's #2 on the hit list, and they've been holding up the process. I dare say I believe Chris Bosh has been holding it up. And the reason I believe Chris Bosh has been holding it up is because he opted out of the 2 years, $42 million owed to him over the next 2 seasons. He opted out, just like Dwayne Wade did. We all know that Dwayne Wade, in all likelihood, isn't going anywhere. He's going to retire at Miami Heat. That's what Pat Riley and the Miami Heat organization wants. Even though they want to keep Chris Bosh, it doesn't mean that they're willing to give him what he can get elsewhere. So you have Houston now, who's had Chris Bosh on their radar for the longest. Everybody's been talking about Melo. Of course they want Melo. But they don't believe they've got much of a shot at getting Melo. They believe they have a better shot at getting Chris Bosh. Chris Bosh understands that even though he would prefer to be in Miami and remain in Miami, because he and his wife both love South Beach, in the end, if Houston comes with $90 to $96 million and Miami ain't trying to do that, Chris Bosh is going to leave for Houston. If that happens before LeBron makes his decision, then all of a sudden, you're Pat Riley. You don't have to worry about appeasing the big three. You've already worked something out with D-Wade, and it's about keeping LeBron James. So all you have to do is go out and get somebody else. And that somebody else, their attempt would be Carmelo.
Sure.
Because as I've reported on many occasions, Melo and LeBron would like to play together. It has to be ideal. They want their money and all of this other stuff. But they would love to play together, okay? You're Carmelo Anthony, all right? The New York Knicks are #1 on your list. At the same time, the Lakers were incredibly impressive because they appealed not just to Carmelo, but to Lala Anthony because of her Hollywood aspirations. Got the director Joel Silver, a season ticket holder, along with Tobey Maguire doing the voiceover. It was incredibly special, and the Lakers have their act together in terms of their presentation. They've wowed Rich Paul with LeBron James. They've wowed Carmelo Anthony and his camp with Bay Frazier and all of those boys. It's impressive. But in the end, what it comes down to is this. To me, Chris Bosh is the X factor, because if Chris Bosh elects to stay and the health of Dwayne Wade is still questionable, there's but so much Pat Riley can do, because he already lost out on Martin Gortat, lost out on Kyle Lowry. You were hoping to get one of those guys. They re-signed with their respective teams in Washington and Toronto. So what can you do? In the end, you haven't been doing much, which elevates the possibilities of LeBron James ultimately leaving. But if Chris Bosh were to leave, and then you talk about adding Melo, now that changes things in my estimation. So it's all about timing. Who's going to make the first move? When is it going to happen? It's all up in the air right now, and that's the reason why things are so non-definitive. Because everybody's wondering who's going to make the first move. The only guys who can afford to procrastinate are LeBron and Melo, because they both have their money waiting for them in Miami and New York, respectively. They ain't going anywhere. But everybody else has to make a decision, because the longer they wait, the more the money will disappear.
as usual, astute analysis on your part. But you're reading the tea leaves the opposite way I'm reading them. I think you're looking at the tea leaves upside down as it concerns the key domino here, Chris Bosh. Not the biggest domino, but the key one who could be the first domino to fall, maybe as early as today. Who's to say that Pat Riley hasn't quietly made it clear to Chris Bosh he doesn't want Chris back? Is that possible?
Wow. Okay.
Well, again, Chris opted out thinking, I'm going along with my guys here because everybody's opting out. Chris, God bless him, because he's made a lot of big shots and contributed a lot of key plays. Remember the rebound that led to the three from the corner that saved the Game 6. But Chris Bosh has always been the third wheel. In the last 3 games of this past NBA Finals, wouldn't you say Chris came up pretty small by Chris's standards?
Yes, he did.
He disappeared completely in those 3 games.
Yes, he did.
Who's to say that Pat Riley's way out of this mess, the quickest fix, is to quietly make it clear to Chris Bosh, you know, Chris, you should go get the money while the money is good. And if I'm Chris Bosh, I'm thinking along these same lines, because if I have a chance at age, what's Chris? He's 30, just turned 30, okay? Let's say Chris Bosh is thinking, I got my 2 rings, courtesy of, and I contributed some on my part, but courtesy of LeBron and Dwayne Wade. I got my 2. I'm 30. I can go back to my home state in which there are no income taxes.
Right.
I can go to Houston, who is obviously not a favorite, but a contender in the West. And if I join, he would help them immensely to join Dwight and Harden. I assume Chandler Parsons will still be there. I don't know that for a fact.
We don't know that yet. Cleveland and Dallas are coming after Chandler Parsons in the event they can't get
So why wouldn't Chris see the handwriting on today's wall and say, wait a second, I'm out. I'm not chasing Michael Jordan here. I don't need 5 or 6 rings. I got my 2. Why wouldn't he get that 4-year, $96 million max? He could get that from the Rockets right now.
From the Rockets.
Okay, at age 30, that's pretty good money.
Yeah.
4 years, $96 million.
Well,
and again, does Chris want to play more than 4 more years? I doubt it.
Yes, he does.
You think
he's only 30. He
well, I don't know. I don't know. He's made noise about not wanting to play that much longer.
He definitely wants to play past the age of 34.
Right.
I would say that. But the other thing, well, you're absolutely right on the money, because that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
The Miami Heat are not going to announce that they don't really want Chris Bosh back. Chris Bosh is a good player. And it's not that they don't want him. He's just not the priority. Okay? And because he's not the priority, while also simultaneously being a priority for the Houston Rockets, clearly you're going to be in a position to get money from Houston that you ain't going to get from Miami.
Okay.
And so as a result of that, that's where everything, that's why I keep saying Chris Bosh is the guy. Because everybody's talking about LeBron or Melo. But if Chris Bosh makes a move before LeBron makes his decision, then it changes everything.
Yeah, sure.
It changes everything. And that's why the timing, that's why everybody, you know, all right, so what? LeBron's meeting with Pat Riley. Well, LeBron and his meetings are an incredibly big deal because the timing of his decision is going to dictate so much. If he waits and Chris Bosh doesn't, it changes everything for the better for Miami. But if you have to make a decision today if you're LeBron James, that's to the disadvantage of the Miami Heat.
Okay, so,
and that's the problem.
So just for argument's sake, let's say that Pat Riley has subtly made it clear to Chris, you should take that money and run to Houston.
That's right.
Okay? All of a sudden, the decks are cleared for Carmelo Anthony to go to Miami.
Yes.
It's the quickest fix because it's the one Pat Riley Memorial home run move, right? The way he brought the big 3 to Miami 4 years ago, he would bring Melo to Miami now, which raises the issue. Would Melo, because I've said from the start, you and I have gone back and forth, I've said my gut feeling has always been Carmelo will not leave New York. Well, and obviously Phil Jackson.
Let me say this to you. I spoke to some folks yesterday in New York City when I got back from vacation. This is the mentality that the New York Knicks have. All of this noise about how the Lakers are in the mix. The New York Knicks, maybe it's foolish, but the New York Knicks are not worried about your Los Angeles Lakers.
Really?
Because the cupboard is bare. All you see is draft picks, cash, and Kobe. You don't really have much of, they don't even have a coach yet, okay? So the point is, you look at the Lakers, and you're like, excuse me, the New York Knicks can make a legitimate argument, especially with the moves that Phil Jackson has made. By the way, Phil Jackson is doing a good job. I mean, some of the moves, he's doing a good job. That has been impressed upon Melo. Jose Calderon is a significant upgrade to Raymond Felton.
Do you remember what happened to my Spurs in the first round of the playoffs thanks to Calderon and Dalembert?
That's right. Samuel Dalembert, Tyson Chandler may be better than Samuel Dalembert because he knows how to play, but Samuel Dalembert is no scrub. So when you look at the kind of moves that Phil Jackson has made and you combine it with the fact that they've talked about moving Amari, possibly to Philly, who's the clearinghouse for everybody right now because they got $30 million in cap space. They would want Iman Shumpert, by the way, if they were to take Amari Stoudemire contract off of the Knicks books. In the end, understand, you're the New York Knicks. You're saying we're a better option than L.A. if you are true to what you say, Melo. You want a better chance at winning. We have a better opportunity.
You said their presentation was impressive, though.
It was impressive because the impression, you know, when you got the movie stars and directors and all of this other stuff, and they're talking to you about the franchise and the 16 championships and all of this other stuff, their history, it matters. They know how to present themselves. But Jim Buss is still there to get in Mitch Kupchak's way. Don't rule that out. But in the end, you're not in a better situation than the New York Knicks right now, okay? But if you're Miami, they would be very worried, which is why they would want Melo to make a decision sooner than later because Miami is still in flux right now, and they can't just come out there and just disregard Wade and Bosh and all of these boys to get Melo. But if Bosh leaves, then that's a different ball game. So the Knicks would be more worried about Miami than they would about the Lakers right now.
Okay, so we're back to Melo. How much would Melo's head turn toward Miami, thinking I could play with LeBron, I could play with Dwayne, even though Dwayne's going on, what is he, 32, and we know he's got knee issues. Well, I'm still betting on Dwayne Wade next year. That's just me. I'm not writing him off.
So am I. So am I.
And whatever second and third level free agents then Pat Riley could mix and match around the duo of LeBron and Carmelo, because they've already, he and Spo have already toured the country talking to Luol Deng and you know, a cast of
you ain't get Luol Deng, and Luol Deng don't come off that $13 million he wants.
All right. Okay, well, we'll see. But again, it might open some eyes if it's Carmelo and LeBron in Miami.
Carmelo would have whiplash because here's the thing. New York is New York, and they can offer, but you have to remember why they can offer $34 more million than anybody else. It's because of the additional year. If you took away the fifth year and it was just a 4-year deal, right? Then you're talking about the numbers being significantly closer, more closer to like 9 or 10 million as opposed to a $34 million difference. Because of that reality, you have to remember the state of Florida, no state income tax, all right? So the difference in numbers all of a sudden dwindle even more significantly, and then you're talking about signing a 4-year deal with an opt-out after 3 where the numbers don't change because Carmelo's only 30. So you're talking about he's looking for another contract beyond 3 years from now. So all of a sudden, Miami, the possibility to win championships with LeBron, being in that spotlight, et cetera, and the endorsement dollars that him with his astute, business-savvy, beautiful wife, Lala, know how to manipulate their way into that equation. You've got a situation where you can't rule it out. You can't definitively say there's less money for Carmelo Anthony. If LeBron and the Miami Heat presented themselves as an option for Melo and he could get his $96 million from Miami, I don't rule that out at all. It's a toss-up as to what would happen. And dare I say Miami might have the edge.
They might, and I would agree with that. Okay, before we move any farther, let's deal with the Cleveland option here. Our Chris Broussard, for whom we both have, all three, have great respect, tweeted last night that it was strictly a gut feeling on his part after doing lots of interviews, talking to a lot of insiders around this situation in both Cleveland and in the LeBron camp, that the wind might be blowing. He said, I'm not sourcing this. I'm not trying to report this. It's just gut feeling. The wind might starting to be blowing in LeBron's favor of returning to Cleveland. That carries weight to me, Chris Broussard, who worked in Cleveland and knows LeBron through his Cleveland connections. And I'm thinking, wow, that's pretty impressive. Now, I'm going to give you my 2 cents on that. I believe, and I could be dead wrong about this, that LeBron and company want the message out there that they are seriously considering Cleveland just to pay homage to his home area, to make sure that the Cleveland fans realize, hey, I'm giving you my best shot here. I'm giving you a 50-50 shot of I'm considering you strongly. In my heart of hearts, I do not believe LeBron James would ever go back to Cleveland, given the roster as it is right now. That's just my gut feeling that it's more PR, and it's great PR. And I'm not condemning the PR play, but I think it's more PR than real that he would return to Cleveland.
If LeBron doesn't go back to Cleveland, it's more so because of Dan Gilbert than the roster. If you have any doubt as to what Dan Gilbert's words towards LeBron meant
you can look
years ago, look them up,
right?
Read them.
You did it on your radio
think about what he said to that man.
Yeah.
I mean, it was harsh. Now, LeBron is a forgiving dude. And LeBron is the kind of guy that he moves on, and et cetera, et cetera. All of that's true. But there's certain stuff you just never let go of. And LeBron's crew matters to him, too. And there's certain stuff they can't let go of. That stuff hurt. It stung, okay? Not to say that that's going to be the be-all and end-all, but it's a factor. The roster itself, I would make the argument, is better than the one he took to the finals back in 2007. Kyrie Irving is no joke. The boy can ball. Dion Waiters is no scrub. Anderson Varejao can still play, and he's a big body, and he can do some things. Tristan Thompson and those boys can do a little something when you got LeBron James playing alongside of you. And Andrew Wiggins, whatever prognosticators have said about him, it just elevates when you don't have to worry about being double-teamed or having the focus of the attention of the pro level because LeBron is on the court with you. Yeah. That would only help his game. So it is an upside to Cleveland. The only thing, the reason why, whether it's a tweet from Broussard or Mark Stein or Winters or anybody else, the only reason that this doesn't move me is because I said this a year ago, right here, sitting in this chair with you.
You said it all along.
Cleveland is a factor. They've always been a factor. I didn't say that LeBron was leaving, but to even have them on the list, I got excoriated. The fact of the matter is Cleveland has always been on the list. He's always entertained the possibility of going home because now he's a champion and he's no longer in search of something that has eluded him. Now he's a statesman. He's an ambassador. Sure. He's a champion 2 times over. He's a 4-time league MVP. Really, it's just about being in the best situation. His family, they still live in Akron in the offseason for a reason, okay? And it is what it is. Again, I wouldn't give them the edge over on Miami, but I'm not ignoring the possibility that he could end up going back home because you talk about one of the great sports stories. Could you imagine? Cleveland hasn't won a championship on any level since the 60s.
Right.
LeBron goes back home and brings a championship to this team for the first time in franchise history. An incredible story. Now, that may not be enough because, again, for me personally, and then maybe it's just my own thing, but I pride myself in my ability to be able to vibe with dudes. I just don't see how somebody could go from South Beach to Cleveland. That's just me.
Yeah, but he's from the area.
I understand. I understand. Right. But look. Ain't a lot of people from L.A., but once you go to L.A.,
I know
it kind of changes.
You
know what I'm saying? You get addicted to the weather, the palm trees, the breeze. You saw the finals. You saw how we were when we were walking down South Beach. It was heaven. You understand? I mean, it was heaven.
For you, it was.
It wasn't heaven for you.
Yeah, not for me.
They
were chanting against me. They were screaming. They wanted me to jump in the pool.
All I'm trying to, well, yeah, I'm sure you had a problem with that.
Yeah.
All I'm trying to say is that South Beach, Cleveland. I just don't know how anybody. That's just me.
What was LeBron's wife's tweet of a few weeks back? We can't wait to get back home, quote unquote.
Yeah, sure.
To Akron, right?
By the way, on a separate note, she's got a beautiful smoothie spot, health smoothies in Miami. It's marvelous. Yeah. Savannah James, LeBron. She's the juice. Oh, I went there. I go back now.
You will?
Every time.
Okay, 2 last quick
points.
Every time. Number one, I'll give you that this Cleveland roster might be slightly better than the one he took to the finals, but only slightly.
Yeah.
And not good enough to be a legit contender where you'd say, they're going to win it all.
You're wrong. Let me tell you why. The East.
Well, I know.
It's the East by default. By default, if LeBron goes on Cleveland's squad, They're one of the favorites to come out of the East.
Are they better than the Bulls right now?
Say
with the Bulls, without Carmelo, just as is. If Derrick Rose can come back.
If Derrick Rose can come back, they're not better than the Bulls, but they are better than the Bulls if they get LeBron. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Okay, but I'm saying if LeBron goes to this Cleveland roster, do you think plus LeBron that would be better than what's left in Chicago with Derrick Rose?
Yes.
I don't.
Yes, you know why? Because Derrick Rose is your only scorer. That's why.
I think you underestimate that 07 Cleveland roster, but that's a whole other issue that would take us 15 more minutes to dissect.
That's right.
Last quick question. Last quick question. The one shocking story of our time away was that LeBron wants the max. I don't get that. He wants rings. He is chasing Michael Jordan, and it's a long way to go. Why would you demand the max? Why wouldn't you say, I will take the league minimum right now?
Well, first of all, let's not go extreme and talk about the league minimum.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, why wouldn't you? I would. That's what I would say. If I could make that kind of money,
you would
off the court,
you would not.
I would too.
I don't care. Listen, you ain't giving up $100 million. The minimum? Are you crazy?
Hey, I've saved a little money. I've done okay.
Forget all that. LeBron made $70 million last year. He's notoriously frugal with his money. He doesn't spend. I don't care. It's principle. If I'm the top talent, listen.
You want rings of principle?
If I'm the top talent in the world, I understand shaving a little bit. I may not need the max, but I'll be damned if I'm going to the minimum. You need to stop smoking or drinking that Diet Mountain Dew.
I do drink
You need to stop that.
And I drank a lot of Dew a day.
But I will say this. If you're LeBron, it's also, this is a fact, and this is not a big deal. We don't need to get into this, but you got a players association that, for all intent and purposes, got to hand it to them a little bit with collective bargaining.
I agree.
You don't want your players in position to take the max, passing on that. You see what I'm saying? You want them to capitalize. You put those stipulations within the collective bargaining agreement for a reason. And you don't want guys just passing up the max. Remember, one of their biggest agendas was to make sure a big three was never assembled again. It wasn't LeBron's intention, and I don't fault him for it. But the whole decision thing, that infuriated owners, and it galvanized them even more to go to that negotiating table and make sure they position themselves to make sure to prohibit a big three from being able to happen again. That's what's going on here right now.
Okay, but the Players Association doesn't care about rings. LeBron should care about rings.
But league minimum? League minimum.
And he does.
Why not? I mean, seriously.
On, you need to stop.
Well, how much more money can you spend?
You know what? There's always a way to spend more money.
Well, you say that.
You got to be a capitalist, Skip. This is America.
Private jets.
You stop
PJs.
that.
You need PJs.
It's America.
Yeah, PJs.
I don't mind a little shade. I don't want a little pay cut, but $100 million? The league max to the veteran minimum? What do you need to stop spiking that Mountain Dew?
I saved my first dollar, man.
Please.
All right, so our producer says it's time to move on. Let's talk about it. So many factors, and whether LeBron will stay, the Cavs, Bosh, different things that we've pointed out. You've heard from Skip and Stephen A. We actually want to hear from you. Where do you think LeBron will wind up? We need you to go to Twitter using the hashtag King's Landing. Tell us where you think he will end up, and we will reveal the results a little later on in the show.